93, 93, 93. You already know who it is. Amon Nasharanu. We back in here once again. Just doing a quick little check-in because I know I haven't went live, and I don't know how long. I don't keep track of this stuff. But we've been active nonetheless. What's up? What's up? What's up? So again, I'm only going to be here, shortly, maybe 20, 25 minutes, just to answer some questions in case anyone has any. But before we get into the questions, let me just speak on, we just go through the grind. So first and foremost, just let me actually put this down a little bit. Peace. 93, Keenan, and your mom. So we just in here, casual. What's up, Jeremiah? With Jeremiah, rather. Cooling. Yeah, we cooling over here as well. We got to take it smooth. After the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, for just in case, for those who don't really understand. I know everybody isn't into astrology. Everybody may not be into numerology, may not be into the tarot, so on and so forth. So that's why I try to make videos to be as universal as I can, because I know everyone comes from a different school of thought. And because everyone comes from a different school of thought, the only way to speak and be understood is to integrate everything. Right? So this is why I do my best to integrate the astrology, the numerology, the tarot, the Kabbalah, and all of these things that come together naturally and beautifully. How to use a occult to quit addiction? Well, I would say, in my experience, what's up, Miss Libra? You just have to change your surroundings. And if you cannot change your surroundings, you must change the energy of your surroundings. And what I mean by that is house vibrations. I speak about it. I may not speak about it a lot, but I'm always talking about numerology, and we have control over the numerology in our home. I made a video about it years ago. It's called How to Change Your House Vibration. I made this video years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago. So check out that video, how to change your house vibration and change your house vibration. Because your surroundings is not just like the people you're around or the neighborhood or the zip code or the city. Those things play a part. But the biggest factor is your home vibration or your home numerology. That is the biggest influence, because this is happening inside of the home. See, it's one thing to explore the outside of the home, then it's another thing to explore the inside of the home, because inside of the home is dominated by the house vibration, is dominated by numerology. Everyone has an address. So once we understand these numbers have attributes. So if someone has an address of, let's just say 9255, that's the address I grew up in. You know that all of these digits have a element, a degree. So I'll just use myself as an example based off the house that I grew up in or the address I grew up in. Or at least, for 10 years, I spent 10 years of my life in an address of 9255. We don't have to go into the street, or just 9255. 9255, once you reduce it to a single digit, is reduced to the number 3. For those who may not understand what I'm talking about, it's just you add up everything and you reduce it to a single digit. So you add the 9 plus the 2. 9 plus 2 gives you 11. Then you have a double 5 there. So 5 plus 5 is 10. So you pretty much have 10 plus 11. 10 plus 11 gives you 21. That 21 then reduced to a single digit, 2 plus 1 gives you 3. So a 9255 address, once you reduce it to a single digit, is reduced to the number 3. So when I think about numerology and I think about, okay, I grew up in a number 3 home, we know that 3 resonates with the planet Jupiter, which is about expansion. Jupiter rules over the 9th and 12th houses of astrology. Traditionally, we know in modern astrology, Pisces is ruled by Neptune. But traditionally, it is ruled by Jupiter, just like Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius versus Uranus. So that gives you a whole different perspective. So if we're looking at the house vibration, once again, I grew up in the 3 vibration. I grew up in the energy of Jupiter. So when I think back at, okay, well, what were the events that occurred in that home? What was the energy of that home? Well, in that home, I was a gamer. I grew up as a gamer. You know, like gaming is big now, but I grew up as a gamer. You know, so in that household of the number 3, I would play a lot of video games. That would be my pastime. You know, I wasn't really an outside guy. I wasn't going outside trying to find something to do. I had video games. You know, I just grew up in the age. I grew up in the 90s. Okay, we had video games, right? So that's just the era that we grew up in. Video games was popping. So that is what it is. However, more than that, more than just video games being popping, it was an extra energy in my home because remember, Jupiter rules over the 9th house of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius rules over gambling and gaming. Because you know there are some states and cities that they don't refer to gambling as gambling anymore. They refer to it as gaming, especially here in Las Vegas. If you're here in Las Vegas, then you know what I'm talking about. So they don't even reference gambling as gambling. It becomes gaming. So if you're going to a casino, you're going to game. You're not going to gamble. That's just the way that they structured the law, you know, just to make it less, you know, controversy, whatever. So, me growing up in a 3 home, it inclined me to be a gamer because that is the energy of Sagittarius. Then, when we look at the energy of Pisces, Pisces is all about your psychic senses and your psychic ability, your ability to access your psyche, which is in the back of your head. Kof, the Hebrew letter Kof. Again, for those who are into the Kabbalah, the Hebrew, you know what I'm talking about, right? So to access your psyche, you do so through Jupiter instead of Neptune, because modern times you would use Neptune because Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and Neptune is all about chaos. However, when you make Jupiter the ruler of Pisces, and we know Jupiter is about expansion, then Jupiter is talking about the expansion of the unconscious mind, because your psyche is your unconscious mind, is one and the same. So not only does Jupiter expand your ability to game, and Jupiter or Sagittarius also represent divination. So Jupiter rules over divination as well as your psychic ability or your psychic senses. So when I look back at my life, I'm like, okay, not only was I a gamer in the 3 frequency, I also started to play with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That's just my personal experience. So in that household, under the 3 vibration, I started gaming, and I also started playing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which, as we see, eventually evolves to tarot cards, right? So the reason I'm even into tarot cards now is because I used to be into Yu-Gi-Oh cards and regular playing cards, and I evolved from that. Then when it comes to the gaming, I may not be a gamer now. Like, I don't have the PS4 and 5. I had the 4, but, you know, I passed it along to my nephew. You know, I had a nephew, I had a PS4, but I never really had time to play it, you know, because as you get older, you know, you just have different responsibilities. So like it's just a little bit too much going on for me to just sit down and game. However, now again, instead of gaming, I utilize divination via the tarot, astrology, numerology. So gaming became divination via 9th house, which is ruled by Jupiter, the ninth house of Sagittarius. Then if we look at Pisces, the 12th house is the house of karma. It's also the house of spirituality. It's a house of devotion. So Pisces, or the 12th house, makes you spiritually inclined. And hence, here I am talking about spirituality. So I equate that to my upbringing. I was brought up in a 3 frequency. Also, Jupiter is my strongest planet in astrology. My Jupiter is exalted. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and my Jupiter is in Cancer, Eastern astrology, or surreal astrology. Not Western, but the Eastern. Okay? So if I look at my life and I see, like, what am I into now? What has that evolved to? It has evolved to divination via tarot, numerology, astrology, so on and so forth. And that psychic ability is why I work with spirits, which I speak more about spirits on the website. You know, so for people who may not know, the difference between my public site or public YouTube and the private site is I speak more about spirits. So for those who are more into spirits and what spirits do, and you know what spirits you should work with to get certain results, I put most of that on the website. So on the public arena, I just speak about more so divination. So I come from the 9th house publicly, and I come more so from the 12th house privately. And again, this is all based upon my upbringing. So to answer the question, I just wanted to give my own example. If you want to conquer addiction, change the energy of your home because it will affect your psyche differently. So you just may not resonate with the particular planet that you live in. So again, if you live in a 3 frequency, that means you are influenced by the orbit of Jupiter. So Jupiter may not necessarily be a favorable planet for you, depending on your alignments. So let's just say if your strongest planet is the sun, then you probably would do better in a 1 frequency because 1 correlates with the sun. So this is, again, you just really have to study your own chart and study, okay, what would be the best energy for me to be in so that it works to my advantage. So you will have to look at your own mathematics and come to that conclusion, because there is a remedy for every problem, right? So for every problem we may have, there will always be a solution, but you have to go through this mathematical process called divination. Divination is going through a process. I have a problem. What am I going to do about it? The process to get from the problem to what to do about it is divination. And that is coming from Sagittarius. Sagittarius, the Hebrew letter that corresponds with Sagittarius is Samek. It is the tarot card art or temperance, which is the balance of positive current and a negative current. That's what the energy of Samek or Sagittarius represents at the core, at the essence. Temperance, the balance, the good and the bad. If we look at the tree of life or the Kabbalah, it makes more sense, because if we look at the tree of life or the Kabbalah, we see that Samek, the path of Samek, because you have 22 paths on the tree of life, and Samek is one of those paths. It is the 25th path. The 25th path of Samek is in the middle of the tree. It's not on the left-hand side. It's not on the right-hand side. It's actually on the middle of the tree. And that's why Sagittarius is all about balancing the positive and the negative, or the right pillar and the left pillar, severity and mercy. So that's why Sagittarius has that energy, because that's where it is on the tree of life. That's where it is on the Kabbalah. Because the Kabbalah is a map of the universe. For those who may not know, it is a map of the universe. So once you know Kabbalah by heart, it allows you to answer any possible question that you can come up with, and you have a system of deduction so that you can arrive at conclusions. Now, does everybody use a Kabbalah like this? No. This is just how I use it. Because the Kabbalah, just like astrology, there are many schools of astrology. You got electional astrology, you got mundane astrology, you got natal astrology, and what am I missing? You got honorary astrology. You got 4 different schools of astrology. Then you got more schools. You got Uranian astrology, Chinese astrology, Western astrology. You got many different schools, so you have to find out for yourself what speaks to you. And that's why I use Eastern astrology. Eastern astrology speaks to me, meaning I don't have to really dig too deep to see what's going on. Again, when the symbols speak back to me. So it's not really just me trying to decode all of this. The symbols speak back to me when I'm studying the Eastern chart. It's not like that when I study the Western. I don't get that same effect. I really have to dig a lot more to come to conclusions. But this is the thing. It's not that the East is better than the West. It's just a different angle of the same situation. So Western astrology shows you what's going on right in front of you. Eastern astrology not only shows you what's going on right in front of you, it gives you a little bit more. And that's why Eastern astrology is more geared towards the spirit, or geared towards where you fit in the collectiveness of it all. Western astrology is just all about you as an individual and your personality. So Western astrology is about you as an individual and your personality. It doesn't really relate to what's going on outside of you. With Eastern astrology, it's trying to give you a sense of what's going on outside of you, or what else is going on that is invisible, that you can also integrate into your astrology. And that's why we have different zodiac signs, depending on if it's Western or Eastern. Because Western, I'm a Scorpio. I'm a Western Scorpio, but I'm an Eastern Libra. So for people who may be new in astrology, they're like, okay, well, I've been studying astrology. I confuse people. But let me show you how I work it out, just so to help people understand, the differences, so you can come to the conclusion as to what would be more useful for you. So for me being the Western Scorpio, and give me 1 second here, I'll come right back.